Hey guys, today I'm taking a look at the Ground Dion playset from the Diaclone line. This is the lower half that makes up Robot Base Grand Cross. I'll be reviewing the upper half Cloud Across, as well as the combination of the two sets and all the associated accessory sets in separate videos very soon. So if you're interested in those, please subscribe and be sure to check them out. Before I kick off, this is actually my first video in 3 years. I've embedded chapter marks, so if you want to dive straight in, you can jump ahead. But for anyone that cares, I just want to say thank you to everyone who watched my earlier content and posted a comment encouraging me to come back and keep going. Back then, COVID got in the way. Then I sold my business and took a full-time office job, which sucked up almost all of my time. But throughout it all, I've been fortunate enough to continue collecting cool toys and figures, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of them. Again, if you're interested, please do subscribe. I can't promise regular frequent videos, but I can promise you some interesting content that showcases some cool toys, figures, and collectibles. My aim isn't to try and win the YouTube algorithm and do this full time. I just want to document some of this stuff in a way that really does it justice. And in the case of some of my more vintage items, there's little to no videos online, so I almost feel like it's my duty to share them so anyone who's interested has a chance to enjoy them. If you can't have it on your shelf, take it down from time to time and appreciate it. Maybe I can offer the next best thing. Okay, so let's get into it. TakaraTomy announced the Robot Base project in September 22 with the first look at Ground Dion, which is this set here. This was a really interesting proposition. They were announcing their intention to build a new robot base for the rebooted Diaclone line, but by only showing us the bottom half. With no concept shown of what the completed concept looked like, no timeline or pricing on the top half, you were expected to pre-order. With the limited small run nature of this Diaclone line, if you wait until an item is released to see if you want to pick it up, it may be too late. So they were essentially expecting everyone to trust their vision. 6 months later, we had it in our hands, and like almost every Diaclone release before it, it really is amazing. Amazing enough to justify the considerable price tag or difficulty getting hold of? That's what I'm going to show you. This is a long 4-video series, but I'm planning to show you everything, so please stick with me. Taking a look at the box, it's impressive in size, but to be honest, most Diaclone boxes don't do it for me anymore. The weird duotone image thing that they do in the background just makes it unnecessarily cluttered and busy. The top is nice and minimal, and the back largely makes up for the shortcomings of the other sides with a ton to soak in. It shows off all the vehicle modes, all the gimmicks. My only criticism here is that the images are unnecessarily dark against a dark background. Compare this to the vintage Diaclone boxes that were full of bright, bold colors and dioramas. I think they could do a lot more here. Once we get inside the box, you can see the huge amount of items you get with this set. Alongside the main Ground Dion vehicle, you get a heap of vehicles, including 2 clear throwbacks to the original 1980s Diaclone line. Both super cute scaled down versions of their ancestors that are almost like something you get from a premium Gashapon machine. Firstly, a single-seater Dia Fighter, which is a teeny tiny version of the Dia Train, and then the Cosmo Roller, which is a teeny tiny version of the Cosmo Roller. Unfortunately, I don't have either of these vintage toys in my collection to show you and compare. Rounding out the vehicles, we have the twin pair of base fighters in red and blue, and then 2 big drill things called Dio Divers. Lastly, it's great to see TakaraTomy not skimping on Dianaut pilots here, with 5 in a mix of colours and styles. There's enough to feel like you're filling out sections of the base without having to shell out for more figures and kits. You also get the standard black and white, incredibly hard to follow instruction manual, a wonderful overview booklet that essentially gives you a similar summary to the back of the box, and a sheet of steel stickers to be placed in specific areas on the toy to allow you to post the Dianauts. So the headline is you get a ton of cool stuff in this set. This is definite Christmas or birthday madness that has enough playability to go around multiple kids or adults, or a mix of both, without starting fights. Overall, this thing has 2 modes. Firstly, there's its alt mode, which is kind of an aircraft carrier crossed with a tank merged with a base. There's a few orientations in this mode which we'll dive into. Then the other mode is the legs and waist of Robot Base Grand Cross. Straight out of the box, we've got the main alt mode, which is referred to as Land Dreadnought. And the first thing you notice is how imposing it really is. I remember with my first few sets feeling that Diaclone was smaller than I expected. That initial disappointment fades though. You very quickly see its quality over quantity, but there's no such disappointment here. Ground Dion is big enough to rival any other toy line. There's no way anyone will be underwhelmed by the size. It's over 50 centimeters long and 25 centimeters high and weighs in at a hefty 2.8 kilos or over 6 pounds. DA-95 Battle Convoy was a substantial set, but this is longer, taller and wider. In fact, you pretty much have to add an extra pod module to Battle Convoy's trailer to match it in length alone. The next thing you notice is the incredible detail. We've got a combination of various plastic colors and a ton of painted detail, with bright highlights, metallic and transparent features. Every panel is heavily detailed, as with everything in the Diaclone line, but with a toy this size, it's not always guaranteed. Even the underneath is well molded, despite not having much paint. There are unfortunately a lot of plastic mold imperfections though. Some, like the grey runway section, almost look intentional, to make the panels more interesting. But then sections like the very top just look a bit rough. And there's also areas that are just plain shabby, the worst of which is the side area, where the plastic parts look crudely snapped from the mold and somehow slipped through QC. Hopefully they're not all like this. For reference, mine was a very early number on the outside of the shipper box. Maybe they were rushing to get these out to market. Those kinds of imperfections are not entirely foreign to the Diaclone line, but in general the build quality is quite high. You can spend ages just admiring all the details of this from every angle before you even open a hatch or aim a cannon. So taking it all in, you start with the long dual runway sections. There's various hatches, guns and areas that allude to more going on. As you move to the back, there's this incredible infantry section that's made up of a heap of platforms, stairs, ramps and doors. Then you finally take in the command tower and the main bridge of the land Dreadnought. Again, it feels like everything opens or flips out and offers an opportunity to dive headfirst into the Diaclone world. There's so much to love about this toy, you'd be forgiven for getting stuck in a stalemate, not knowing what to explore first. The whole Ground Dion sits on tank treads, but they're completely fixed and sadly there's no rollers or casters. They're really just for aesthetics. So if you want to actually drive it around, you just have to slide it on the static tank treads. But to be fair, it's so big that you really wouldn't want to. And it's more about what's happening on and around Ground Dion. Since we're not actually going anywhere, we can flip out the side stairs or boarding ramps. These are on either side and just unclip, rotate out and angle down. Across the whole Diaclone line, you see evidence that this is a passion project for the designers and that they labour over every detail to ensure maximum playability. Here the stairs have these perfectly sized notches that allow you to wedge the Dianaut pilot's legs to post them climbing aboard. You can then follow the stairs up to the rear deck platform and climb aboard the motorised lift. Just the sound and movement of this thing makes me happy, like the head gimmicks in the Die Battles V2, although hopefully this one works more consistently over time. When the lift is in the lowest position, just press the rectangular darker button at the base to send your crew member on their way upwards. I can't imagine anyone not loving this. Now that you're up at the second observation level or the bridge deck, your Dianauts can look out across the landscape or survey the battlefield. At the 1/60th Diaclone scale, you're up almost 9 meters here, which is around the height of a 3-story building. Of course, what good is a Dianaut pilot standing around? So these light grey tabs on either side allow you to open the central hangar and let them get to work. The bridge lift can be in two main orientations. This angled setup allows you to access the central hangar door, but if you angle the lift platform up and then separate the sides here, you can release it and then carefully, as it's quite stiff, push it upwards and then back. Lowering the inner rails of the lower deck allows your Dianaut to now travel almost the whole way up to the main bridge. It's a little short, but once you open the door, it feels close enough to make it a real thing. I know you're keen to see inside the central hangar and the main bridge, and we'll get there, but we've still got a lot of cool things to look at first. From this bridge deck platform, we can move around and flip out this door here to reveal a rotating anti-air gun turret. The two barrels rotate out and the whole chair can spin around. Note that the guns can come off, so you can swap it with some other compatible piece from the Diaclone universe. Above the gun turret is a flip-out satellite dish that again can rotate or be completely swapped out. Spinning around towards the front, we get to another one of Ground Dion's best gimmicks, the Freezon mega missiles. There's a lever on either side, and if you pull it out forward slightly, the missile hatch door will spring open. Pulling it all the way forward and the missile pops out, a bit. This is where the 1980s version of this toy would have taken out an eye or two, as this would have been spring-loaded for sure. Unfortunately, this is the best we get nowadays. You can then grasp the missile and pull it out by hand, and once you clear these cool blast effect pieces, they should spring out. You can leave it in this just fired pose, which looks really cool, but I'm always worried I'll knock the front of the missile and snap the supporting plastic piece, and there's no way you'll fix that. Alternatively, you can pull it out a little further, so the red mounting piece in the bottom extends, and you can slide the entire blast piece out laterally. You can then play with the missile independently, including sliding the blast effects in and out. When you're done with your attack, you can just slide it back into place, push it all back inside Ground Dion, and close the missile bay door. As we continue forwards, we see the long runways side by side that give you plenty of opportunities to pose ships, mechs, and Dianauts on. I'll cover the DA-95 expansion set in a later video, but this gives you considerably more surface area to the runway. So if you think they haven't made efficient use of the real estate, you're only an upgrade away. Looking on each side, you have the secondary cannons. These rotate but do not tilt up strangely. They're just one piece. But like most things in the Diaclone line, they're mounted on universal ports, so if you have something better to put there, you can customize it. The cannon hatch also lifts up to expose two 3x3 arrays of missiles and some kind of front and rear facing railgun. And underneath the body, behind the hatch, is a dial that when you spin it, the rear of the flight deck opens to reveal a hangar storage lift. This is a pretty universal size in the Diaclone range, but within the set, these two hangars are perfect for the base fighters. When you're done, you can mount them back on and lower the deck for storage, and they tuck away neatly and safely. So if you think that's cool, I'm excited to share that in total Ground Dion has 8 docking bays of various types. Like I said, there's so much going on with this toy, you can get stuck trying to decide what to play with. But at the same time, you can have kids playing at either end for hours at a time in harmony, each having plenty to do. Spinning back around to the rear, we find the next pair of docking bays on the ground level. Lower one of the ramps to expose the stern hangars, designed for the Cosmo roller, but again, suitable for a wide range of vehicles or custom creations from the Diaclone universe. The ramp will also pull out to expose the vehicle and help you mount it in place. For docking bays 5 and 6, we spin the whole thing 180 and go back to the front. In the land Dreadnought mode, it's a bit hard to access, so lift up the runway slightly and grab the main cannons that you may have noticed hiding underneath. Then slide them forwards until they click flush at the end of the runway. Fold the runway in half and lift the cannon guns slightly to unlock the rotation. You can now spin it around to face front or wherever you like. Now we can access the bow hangars underneath. No matter how many times I do this, I always try and open this incorrectly with the top first. The trick is to open the sides first using the 2 tabs at the end of the top piece. Swing them out like a door and then lift the top piece up after. You can even tuck it up under the runway cannon section to keep it in this mode. And in fact, this is what Takara calls Ground Dion's heavy attack mode. The sides of the bow hangar doors each have 6 missiles embedded in them, but they're kind of easy to miss as they're painted red on a red background. Hiding inside are the 2 Dio divers, but we'll take a better look at them in a bit. We've covered most of the peripheral bow and stern features, so let's jump back to the bridge. The Dianaut crew have a great vantage point from the Ground Dion bridge as it juts out to overhang the runway. Clear sections in the roof help to add light so you can see into the play area through the front windows, but opening the roof exposes the command center of the whole vehicle. Inside we have 5 seats, 2 drivers at the front, 2 comms or weapon support terminals at the rear, and the commander station bang in the middle. No surprises that these all come out for full customization. Even the handrail can pop off so you can complete the minimalist look if that's your thing. The rear door pushes down to connect to the higher of the lift configurations we saw earlier, and there's a docking stairway on the side that connects to the central hangar, so your crew can enter the bridge from below. The coolest thing about the bridge though is that it's actually docking bay number 7 in my list. You can slide the entire bridge forwards and it detaches as the command shuttle. You can adjust the rear wings and flip down these additional ones that were previously hidden. And now the whole thing can fly around. There's even little landing stands, so it sits neatly up off the ground. And because it's Diaclone, there's ports in the base and sides where you can attach other accessories and parts. With the command shuttle out of the way, we finally expose the 8th and final docking bay for Ground Dion, which is the central hangar. Open the front grey hatch and slide the platform out to access the vehicle stored within. You can also remove the whole top plate to give you complete access to the hangar and doors from the inside. The last thing I want to show you before we move on to the cool little vehicles and ships that come with this guy is something Takara calls Dio-Nova Mode. So for this we need to fold away the lift rail underneath the lift platform, then push that down flat. Detach the lift and bring it up to horizontal. Now spin the handrails from the bridge deck underneath so they store away. And then spin the whole bridge and central hangar region 180 so that the lift comes to the front. Slide out the command shuttle and slide it back in the other way so it's facing forwards. Finally, by opening the small hatches at the end of the lift, we discovered that our mild-mannered lift was actually a giant cannon all along. Well played, Diaclone design team. Okay, so that pretty much covers off all the cool stuff you can do with Ground Dion in its alt vehicle form. So let's take a look at the additional smaller vehicles and ships that come with it. Starting with the Dio-Diver, because despite it looking super cool, it's actually not really a vehicle. You can't sit a Dianaut in it or on it. So I guess you have to kind of imagine it's some sort of remote control drilling weapon. Obviously they have this massive drill at the front that you can spin around, and at the front it's a bit spiky with these 4 missile heads embedded. The front treads flip up and back, and the whole side tread unclips and folds around to the back. To be honest, I don't really know the appeal of this guy in terms of play value, but it looks cool and you get 2 of them. The whole front drill disassembles, so possibly you can build it into something cool. As you saw earlier, in the heavy attack mode, the Dio divers are exposed and make for a pretty menacing ground level assault. Moving on to the base fighters, you get 2 of these. They're completely identical, except that one is blue and one is red. Their wings fold out in 2 stages. Firstly, flip out the larger coloured wings, and then rotate the grey wing tips horizontally. Then open the cockpit to drop in your pilot, and you're ready for action. Those of you already familiar with the Diaclone range might recognise that these are in fact bullet cores, which is like the core fighter in Gundam. So it's essentially a standard size little vehicle that becomes the head or chest or driving module of a larger mech in the Diaclone line. So while both the base fighters look like cute little transports tucked away in their hidden homes in the runway, they can then quickly dock to a much larger and more formidable bot and head into battle. The last 2 vehicles, the Cosmo Roller and the Dia Fighter, are quite special, as I explained at the very start, as these are some of the original vintage Diaclone toys brought into the modern rebooted line. While the Dia Fighter's retro forefather, the Dia Train, is a much bigger vehicle that housed multiple Dianauts and play areas, this is just a single-seater, but it does retain the cool transformation of the original. Starting off as a very chunky trainish ground vehicle, you can transform it to an attack ship. Push the bottom part of the front nose upwards until it flips over and becomes the ship's nose, and push the back front landing gear towards the front to fill in the blank space. Lift up the grey side wings under the side windows of the cockpit and grab the front and rear in separate hands and carefully separate them so the ship extends. Lastly, flip down the rear wings and away we go. And finally, the Cosmo Roller, easily the cutest of the bunch. It has an amazing little antenna that flips up, as well as a huge 12 missiles hiding in the back area. It's got fake tank treads with rollers, and in my opinion, couldn't be more perfect. There's only 1 Cosmo Roller included, but as you saw, there's easily room for 2. TakaraTomy included a second Cosmo Roller in the DA-95 robot base and machine set, which I'll show you in a later video. The Dianaut figures are a good mix. You've got a male and female in the green and orange, and then 2 open-face helmeted Dianauts in the red and darker blue, and a Super Commander type guy in this black one with the closed helmet and the red stripe on top. All the Ground Dion Dianauts have a black middle section and gold detail on the chest. They're the version 2 Dianaut style, which came into circulation in late 22 and offered increased detail and range of motion. If you're not completely familiar with the Diaclone range, these inch-tall figures are highly articulate and have tiny magnets in the base of their feet to allow all sorts of posing options. Okay, so now all we have left is the transformation to robot base. I won't cover the actual steps here, as a later video will cover robot base Grand Cross, and I think it makes the most sense to show that then. But as this is a review of Ground Dion, I can't not show you what the bottom half looks like when transformed. One big word of warning when you are transforming though, it's very easy to forget which way to fold the bridge decks. They fold down. Do not fold them up or you'll weaken them considerably. Okay, so that's it. As I said right at the start, this is the first in a series of videos that I'll be releasing covering the entire robot-based Grand Cross playset, so please subscribe to check these out. I'll also be covering the expansion packs for this DA-95 set, including DA-93, 96, 97, 98, and 99, that build out this set. So please give that a watch too if you're interested. Thanks.